Welcome back to the deep end. Usually we take a few days to, digest the research, sit with the data, and come back to you with a polished take.
Mm-hmm.
But today, we are tearing up the schedule.
We really are.
If you've been anywhere near the news in Australia, or really anywhere in the world following these kinds of cases, you know exactly why.
Oh, yeah.
As of Wednesday, February 4th, 2026, the story of 4-year-old Gus Lamont has, well, it's fundamentally changed.
It hasn't just changed. I mean, the entire gravity of the situation has shifted. We are no longer watching a rescue mission. This is now something much, much darker.
Right. For 5 months since September of last year, this was a story about the Australian outback. It was a classic, terrifying picnic at Hanging Rock scenario for, the modern era.
Exactly. A little boy in a bright yellow shirt, the vast scrub, a tragic accident where nature simply swallowed a child.
But the announcement from the South Australian police has completely shattered that narrative.
Yeah.
They have declared the disappearance of Gus Lamont a major crime.
And we need to pause on that term because it sounds, I don't know, generic to the layperson. But legally and operationally, that is a massive pivot.
What does it mean? Exactly.
In Australian policing, shifting from a missing person inquiry to a major crime declaration implies they aren't just looking for a body anymore.
They're looking for a perpetrator.
They're looking for a perpetrator.
Yeah.
It means the evidence, and this is key, the specific lack of it, has crossed a threshold from ambiguous to suspicious.
And the subtext of that declaration is it's brutal. They have explicitly stated they no longer believe Gus is alive.
Which is the heartbreaking part.
And more importantly, and this is the part that makes your stomach drop, they have identified a suspect.
Exactly. And usually when you hear suspect in a child disappearance case, the public imagination immediately jumps to the stranger danger archetype.
Of course.
We think of a white van, a drifter passing through town, someone lurking. But the South Australian Police, specifically Detective Superintendent Darren Field, have been incredibly specific. They aren't looking for a stranger.
No, they've narrowed the aperture completely. They aren't looking for the parents, Joshua and Jessica.
Explicitly cleared. The police were very firm on that point.
Right, they've been cleared. They are looking for someone living under the same roof as the child, someone who was there that day.
And get this, as of right now, that person has withdrawn support and ceased cooperating with the investigation.
Which is the legal equivalent of slamming the door and bolting it shut.
Absolutely.
So today our mission is to, reverse engineer this investigation. We have the police reports, the geography data, the forensic timelines. We need to understand why the police are so sure it wasn't an accident.
And how a motorcycle, a missing 30 minutes, and a complete lack of physical evidence turned what looked like a family tragedy into a manhunt.
This is the story of the silent station.
And to understand the crime, you really have to understand the canvas it was painted on. We need to look past the headlines and truly get a feel for the geography and, I think, the psychology of what is happening at Oak Park Station.
Let's start there, because station implies a farm to most people, but that really doesn't capture the scale we are dealing with here.
Not even close, no. Oak Park is 60,000 hectares.
60,000.
That is 148,000 acres. To put that in perspective for you, that is roughly the size of the entire city of Chicago.
Wow.
Or the nation of Singapore.
Right.
But instead of millions of people, you have, 4 adults?
I can't even visualize that kind of emptiness. It's just space.
Think of it as an ocean of red dust, saltbush scrub, and these low, rocky ridges. It is about 40 kilometers south of Yunta.
And Yunta itself isn't exactly a metropolis.
Not at all. Yunta has a population of about 60 people. It's basically a truck stop on the Barrier Highway. You are 300 kilometers from the capital city, Adelaide.
So if you scream out there, literally no one hears you.
Precisely. It is a place where silence is heavy. It's a physical presence. Your nearest neighbor isn't next door. They are kilometers away. If you are out there, you are on your own. And that isolation is a critical character in this story. It explains why the search was so incredibly difficult.
Of course.
But it also explains why the police are so sure that this wasn't a stranger. You don't just end up at Oak Park Station by accident.
You have to mean to go there.
Exactly. It's a destination, not a thoroughfare. So, let's go back to the day it happened. Saturday, September 27th, 2025.
The vanishing point.
The critical window here is incredibly tight. We are looking at 5:00 p.m. to 5:30 p.m., just 30 minutes.
Okay, so let's walk through the cast of characters because this is a very small circle. We have Gus, obviously, 4 years old,
Hmm.
shy but adventurous is how he's been described. Long, blonde, curly hair. He's wearing that now famous yellow minion shirt, gray pants, and boots.
And he is at the homestead. That's the main house on the station.
Right, so who is with him at the house?
At the homestead, you have his grandmother, Shannon Murray. She is watching Gus and his younger brother, Ronnie, who is just a baby, about 1 year old.
Okay, and where are the parents?
The mother, Jessica, is on the property, but she's 10 kilometers away tending to sheep.
10 kilometers, so she's not close.
No, she's a fair way out.
Yeah.
And she's with her parent, Josie. Now, the family dynamic here is a bit unique. Josie is Jessica's biological father who transitioned. So you have Shannon and Josie, the grandparents, living at the station with Jessica and her 2 kids.
And the dad, Joshua.
Joshua Lamont. He's in what they call a commuter relationship. He lives about 2 hours away. He was not on the property at all that day.
And the police have cleared him?
Yes. Both parents, Jessica and Joshua, have been completely ruled out as suspects.
Okay.
Jessica has a geographic alibi. She was 10 kilometers away. Joshua wasn't even in the same region. It's impossible.
Okay, so back to 5:00 p.m. Shannon, the grandmother, says she sees Gus playing on a mound of red dirt right outside the homestead.
Correct. A very typical scene on a station. Kid playing in the dirt.
She goes inside, presumably to deal with the baby or, start getting dinner ready, household tasks. She comes back out at 5:30 p.m. to call Gus in.
And he's gone.
Just gone.
Gone. In that 30-minute window, he has vanished. Now, let's just apply some logic to this lost child theory for a second.
Okay.
I've looked at the developmental data for a 4-year-old. Average walking speed is about 3 to 4 kilometers per hour. But that's on pavement.
Yeah, that's on a sidewalk in a straight line.
Right, in the scrub. With rocks, salt bush, uneven ground, he's moving much, much slower.
He's 4. He's distracted. He's stopping to look at bugs or a cool-looking rock.
Exactly. So realistically, in 30 minutes, how far does he get? Maybe 500 meters,
That seems generous, even.
maybe 800 meters if he's absolutely booking it in the straight line, which children almost never do.
So when Shannon comes out at 5:30 and he's not there, he should still be within shouting distance. He should be close.
He should be. But here is the variable that changes everything. The sun.
Right.
In late September in South Australia, sunset is approximately 6:15 p.m.
Oh, wow. So she comes out at 5:3. She realizes he's gone. By the time they start really properly looking, the sun is already dipping.
The shadows are getting long. The light is fading fast. The contrast is dropping, making everything that red-gray color.
And then the family searches for 3 hours before calling the police.
3 hours. They call 000 at 8:30 p.m.
That feels like an eternity.
It is. That means for at least 2 of those hours, they were searching in pitch darkness.
Just imagine that. You're on a 60,000-hectare property. It's pitch black. The silence we talked about, suddenly that silence is terrifying because you're calling his name and getting nothing but echoes back.
And this delay, the 3 hours, it's always scrutinized in these cases. Now, we have to be fair here.
Okay.
In rural communities, there is a deep culture of self-reliance. If a kid wanders off, your first instinct is, I'll find him, not, I need the government.
You check the usual spots.
You check the sheds, you check the paddocks near the house. You don't assume he's gone forever. You assume he's hiding behind the water tank.
But 3 hours is a long, long time when the sun is going down and the temperature is dropping.
It is. And crucially, from an investigative standpoint, it completely destroys the immediate crime scene.
How so?
You have family members running around, utes driving back and forth, shining torches, trampling potential tracks in the dark. By the time the police arrive, the scene around the homestead is massive and it's contaminated.
So the police arrive, and this triggers what they are now calling one of the largest searches in South Australian history.
Task Force Horizon. The name itself tells you the scale.
The numbers are just mind-boggling. I was reading the stats from the SAPOL report. They had 163 police officers.
Just police.
Just police. Then they had 230 non-police. That's SES, Australian Defence Force, Army personnel, volunteers from the community. They even had Aboriginal trackers.
And it wasn't just boots on the ground, that's the thing. It was the technology they brought to bear. This is where the story shifts from, we can't find him, to, he isn't there.
Tell me about the tech, because they weren't just looking with binoculars.
No, not at all. They used Polair, the police helicopter, with FLIR technology. That's forward-looking infrared. They were scanning for heat signatures at night.
How does that work in the outback? I mean, the ground gets hot during the day, right? Doesn't it hold heat?
It does, but at night, The desert cools down rapidly. It's called radiative cooling. A living body, a biothermal mass, maintains a temperature of 37 degrees Celsius. On a FLIR screen, a human glows like a light bulb against a dark, cool background.
But there are animals out there. There are kangaroos, goats, sheep.
That's the challenge, of course.
Yeah.
But the police didn't just rely on the thermal camera operators. Get this. They used an aircraft with high-resolution cameras that captured imagery of over 700 square kilometers.
700.
And they ran that imagery through AI software.
AI software, what do you mean?
I mean, it was software specifically designed to distinguish between different types of animals based on their shape, their size, their gait. It can tell a sheep from a kangaroo, from a goat, from a human.
So it's not just looking for a blob of heat. It's looking for a human-shaped blob of heat.
Exactly. They process massive amounts of data looking for a boy in a yellow shirt or a heat signature that matched a child.
And what did they find?
Nothing.
Yeah,
Absolutely
right.
nothing. Not a single confirmed sighting.
That's the crazy part. They searched everywhere. They drained 3 dams.
3.2 million liters of water.
And let's appreciate the effort there. Draining a dam isn't like pulling the plug in a bathtub.
Oh, no. You have to bring in industrial pumps. You have to manage the water flow. It destroys the water source for the station's livestock for a while. It's a huge, costly decision. But they did it.
Why go to that extreme so early?
Because water is the first place you look for a missing child. It's a natural magnet for them. And farm dams are. They're murky. They're basically chocolate milk. You can't see the bottom.
So you can't just look.
No. Before they drained them, they had police divers in the mud searching by feel. It's horrific, dangerous work.
And then there were the mine shafts. They searched 6 of them too. And these aren't just little holes in the ground.
No, these are remnants of 19th century gold prospecting. Some of them are 20 meters deep, just open sores in the earth.
And they're hidden.
Some are obscured by bushes. You could walk right into one and never be seen again. Police use thermal drones just to map the openings because you can't always see them from foot level. Then they sent down specialized drop cameras that rotate 360 degrees.
And again, nothing.
Every single one was cleared. And this is what the experts are calling the zero evidence anomaly.
Let's unpack that concept because it's so important.
In the vast, vast majority of cases where a child wanders off and tragically perishes, which is the lost theory, you find something.
Right.
Entropy happens. Things get dropped. The environment takes a
Or
toll.
find a hat.
A hat blown off by the wind, a shoe that got stuck in the mud, a toy they were carrying. The bush is rough. It takes things from you.
Especially shoes. I mean, kids are always taking their shoes off when they get tired or uncomfortable. Right.
Yeah, it's very common. Or there's a phenomenon called paradoxical undressing in the final stages of hypothermia, where people feel irrationally hot and strip off their clothes. But even before that, a 4-year-old walking through scrub, he's going to lose his shoe. It's almost guaranteed.
But with Gus,
No hat, no shoes, no toy, no verified footprints, nothing.
there was that one footprint mentioned very early on in the news.
There was a single footprint found about 500 meters away, but it was later discounted. It couldn't be definitively linked to the time of disappearance. It could have been old. So essentially you have a child who supposedly walked away, but he left no tracks, dropped no clothing, and didn't appear on thermal imaging.
It's like he just evaporated into thin air.
And physics tells us that children don't evaporate. If the land didn't take him and he isn't lost in the scrub,
Then he didn't leave the homestead area on his own 2 feet.
that is the only logical conclusion left on the table. And that is what led Detective Superintendent Fielke to make that announcement on February 5th, the shift from rescue to major crime.
Let's unpack that announcement because the language he used was very, very specific. He didn't just say, "We suspect foul play." He said there were inconsistencies and discrepancies in the family's version of events.
That phrase, in police speak, is the death knell for the accident theory. When police say inconsistencies, they usually mean that a stated timeline doesn't match the digital data, or that one person's story A doesn't match another person's story B.
So we know the parents are cleared. Joshua was 2 hours away. Jessica was 10 kilometers away on the property. That leaves the people who are actually at the homestead.
Police have confirmed the suspect is a person residing at Oak Park Station. By process of elimination, based on the household composition reports, we're looking at the grandparents' generation,
And this person, the suspect, has withdrawn support.
which is a very polite police way of saying they have lawyered up and are refusing to answer any more questions.
Now, a lot of listeners might think, well, if I was innocent, I'd keep talking to the police. But from a legal perspective, withdrawing support isn't actually an admission of guilt, is it?
Not legally, no.
Mm.
It's often the smartest thing to do if you are a suspect, whether you're innocent or guilty. It's sort of a prisoner's dilemma. But operationally, for the police, it changes the dynamic completely.
How so?
It turns the investigation into a siege. It's no longer a cooperative effort to find a lost boy. It is now an adversarial investigation. The police are trying to prove a crime, and the suspect is protecting themselves legally. They have to rely on forensics, not confessions.
Now, you mentioned digital data earlier. This brings us to the raid in January, because before they made this major crime announcement, they went back to the station, didn't they?
They did. January 14th and 15th, Task Force Horizon returned to Oak Park, this time with a search warrant. And this wasn't a can we have a look around kind of visit. This was a raid.
And what did they take?
They seized a vehicle, electronic devices, and a motorcycle.
A motorcycle. That stood out to me immediately in the reports. Why a motorcycle? If you want to move a body, wouldn't it be easier, bigger?
Think about the terrain. We described it earlier. It's all rocky ridges, salt bush, no real roads. If you drive a ute or a Land Cruiser off-road in that red dust, you leave two wide, heavy tracks. You crush the vegetation.
It's a scar on the landscape.
It's a scar. It's visible from the air. It's visible to the naked eye for weeks, maybe months. But a motorcycle.
It's different.
It's agile. It's light. A single track. You can weave through the salt bush without breaking branches. You can ride along rocky outcrops where the tires won't leave an impression. You can navigate narrow animal tracks that a car could never get down.
So if the police theory is that Gus didn't walk away but was moved away.
A motorcycle explains how you could cover a significant distance in that tight 30-minute window without leaving a wide, obvious trail that hundreds of searchers would spot immediately.
And the timeline. 5.00 to 5.30. 30 minutes. On a bike, you can get a lot further than a 4-year-old on foot.
Oh, absolutely. A 4-year-old goes maybe 800 meters, an adult on a little ag bike doing maybe 40 or 50 kilometers an hour. In just 10 minutes, they can be 5-6 kilometers away. That expands the radius of the potential dump site exponentially.
It completely changes the search parameters.
It does. And remember, the police focus heavily on that immediate 5-kilometer zone in their initial detailed ground searches. If a body was moved beyond that zone quickly before the sun went down and the search began in earnest.
That's terrifying. It implies a level of calculation, of planning.
Or panic driven by opportunity, one or the other.
And the electronics they seized, what are they looking for there? Your phone, your tablet?
They're looking for the digital alibi, or the lack thereof. GPS data from phones is incredibly precise now. It doesn't just track location, it tracks elevation, speed, stops.
So if you say, I was in the kitchen making tea at 5.15, but your phone's accelerometer and GPS says you were moving at 40 kilometers an hour towards the back creek.
Precisely. Data doesn't lie or misremember the way people do. They're also looking for communication discrepancies. Texts sent, calls made, or more importantly, calls not made. Search histories, deleted files. It's a digital footprint.
So they are building a case piece by piece. They ruled out lost. Now, what about abduction? Because that's the other theory people always jump to. Maybe a stranger came to the gate.
The police have been very, very firm on this. Their official stance is no abduction. And their reasoning is fascinating. It comes down to dust.
Dust.
Yes, dust. Detective Fieldmead pointed this in one of his press conferences. In the outback on those dirt station roads, a vehicle kicks up a massive plume of red dust that just hangs in the air.
Right. You can see a car coming 10 minutes before it actually arrives.
It's like a smoke signal that's visible for miles.
Yeah.
And on that day, at that time, no one saw any dust. No strange vehicles were seen by neighbors or workers on the property.
And the property gates were locked, right?
Correct. This isn't a property you just pass through on your way to the shops. It's a destination. You have to open gates to get in and out. So if no one came in from the outside, ruling out abduction,
And the child didn't walk out and get lost?
and the land didn't swallow him in a dam or a mine shaft,
The answer is inside the house.
the answer is within that homestead. It's what investigators call a closed system.
This brings us to the family dynamics, because this family has been, well, let's just say unconventional in their interaction with the public and the media.
That has been a point of massive contention and online speculation.
There was the now infamous incident with the shotgun.
Yes. This made headlines everywhere. A reporter from the Daily Mail approached the homestead. Now keep in mind, the family had repeatedly told media to stay away. They had signs up. They were either grieving or
Yeah.
hiding something, depending on your perspective.
And Josie, one of the grandparents, was on the porch with a shotgun.
The Daily Mail claimed they were threatened, that the gun was pointed at them. The police investigated and actually sided with the family. They said Josie was dispatching a snake on the porch.
Dispatching a snake, it sounds convenient.
It does sound convenient. But to be fair, in rural Australia, snakes on the porch are a very real, very dangerous thing. Brown snakes are lethal. You do use shotguns for snakes on stations. It's not unheard of.
But the timing. A reporter rolls up at that exact moment and you just happen to be shooting a snake.
It's a huge coincidence, certainly. But what it really highlights is the siege mentality that developed at that house. Whether they are guilty or just incredibly private people who feel harassed, they have built a wall around themselves.
And the media hasn't exactly helped things. I saw the reports from 7 News about AI-generated images circulating on Facebook.
This is a new and incredibly disturbing trend in missing persons cases. People using artificial intelligence to create fake images of the missing child.
What kind of images?
There were images of Gus being held by a stranger, another one of him finding a bloody toy in the bush, all completely fake.
God, imagine being the parent and seeing that pop up in your feed.
It's unbelievably cruel. It gives false hope, or it sends the public on a witch hunt against a non-existent stranger. It just muddies the waters for the police.
And then you have the online sleuths, the Reddit threads, everyone analyzing the family's demeanor in the few clips we have of them. Why aren't they crying more? Why did they look angry?
We call this the Lindy Chamberlain effect.
A dingo took my baby.
Exactly. The entire nation turned on Lindy Chamberlain because she didn't cry the way they thought a grieving mother should. She seemed cold, she seemed weird, and she was innocent.
It's a dangerous trap to fall into.
We have to be so careful not to judge this family based on how they react to a camera crew on their driveway. It's called the affect heuristic, judging guilt based on emotion. Police are trained to avoid it.
And the police aren't judging them on demeanors, are they? They are judging them on the motorcycle and the timeline and the inconsistencies.
That is the critical distinction here. The police didn't declare a major crime because Josie was rude to a reporter. They declared it because the forensics and the timeline don't add up.
So where does that leave us right now?
It leaves us in a very difficult legal position. The police have a suspect. They have theory of the case, but they don't have a body.
And proving murder without a body is incredibly hard.
It's notoriously difficult. It's known as a nobody homicide. You have to prove beyond a reasonable doubt not only that the person is dead, which is hard when you haven't found remains, but that this specific person killed them.
You have to eliminate all other possibilities.
Every single one. You have to prove he couldn't have fallen down a mine shaft they missed. You have to prove he couldn't have been taken by a wedge-tailed eagle, which is something that gets brought up.
Yeah.
You have to dismantle every other scenario.
Which is why they're testing that car and that motorcycle so thoroughly. They need a biological link.
They need what's called biological bridging. That's the term. If they find a single hair of his, a drop of blood, saliva, something, that places Gus on that bike or in that car in a context where he shouldn't have been, that breaks the alibi wide open.
And what if the suspect just says, oh, he sat on the bike 3 days ago while he was playing?
Forensic science can often tell the difference. Was the blood transferred by simple contact, or was it impact spatter? Is the DNA in a location where a child playing just wouldn't reach, like under a floor mat? It's a game of microscopic inches.
It's heartbreaking. You look at the photos of the search, those long, straight lines of volunteers walking through the red dust. The army guys. The helicopters, they threw everything at this.
They really did. The community poured its heart out. And to think that while all those people were walking through the heat, risking snake bites, completely exhausted, the truth might have been sitting right there in the living room the whole time.
That's the betrayal, isn't it? That's what makes this so different.
It is. It transforms a tragedy into a crime. A lost child is a community sorrow. Everyone grieves together. A child killed by a caregiver is a community trauma. It breaks the social contract.
And the poor father, Joshua, he wasn't even there. He was 2 hours away living his life. He gets a call saying his son is gone.
And according to some reports, he wasn't told until the next morning.
Wait, really? The next morning? He wasn't the first call.
The police were called at 8:30 p.m. on the Saturday, but reports from multiple sources suggest the father wasn't notified until the following Sunday morning.
But why? Why would you wait?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it? Was
Yeah.
it just chaos? Did they think they would find him any minute and not want to worry him? Or was it stalling?
Stalling. That word just gives me chills.
It should. In investigations like this, time is the enemy of the truth. Every hour that passed before the police were called and every hour before the father was notified was an hour where evidence could be cleaned, stories could be aligned, and potentially a body could be moved further away.
So what happens next? What's the next step?
Now, it becomes a game of chess. The police have made their move by declaring it a major crime. They are putting immense public pressure on the suspect. They are essentially saying, we know, it's only a matter of time.
They're hoping the pressure cracks the silence.
Exactly. Or that the forensics come back with a smoking gun.
Or a smoking motorcycle in this case.
Just likely.
I want to double back on something you mentioned about the mine shafts. I feel like we breezed past that, but the sheer effort involved there is insane.
It really is, and it speaks to the thoroughness of the rescue phase. We need to understand that the police didn't just decide it's homicide on day one. They really truly believe he could be out there.
So these mine shafts, they're from the 19th century gold rush.
Yes. The area around Yunte is just peppered with them. When the gold rush ended, people just packed up and left. They didn't cap the shafts. They didn't put up fences.
So they are just open holes in the ground, waiting.
Some are obscured by bushes. Some have rotted timber over them that would collapse under the weight of a child. You could walk right into one.
That's a parent's worst nightmare.
So when the search began, this was a massive, massive fear.
Yeah.
Did Gus fall? And that's why they brought in the specialized drop cameras that can go down 20 meters and rotate 360 degrees.
And they map them with drones first.
Yes, with thermal drones to find the openings, because you can't always see the change in temperature from ground level. They identified 6 specific shafts within a 10-kilometer radius that were viable candidates.
And they cleared every single one. No ambiguity.
Every single one was cleared. And that is so important because it systematically removes the accidental fall theory. If he isn't in a dam, and he isn't in the mine shaft, and he isn't on the surface, the options just, they vanish.
It really reinforces that zero evidence point. The lack of evidence becomes the evidence.
It does. It forces you to look away from acts of nature and towards acts of human intervention.
I want to speculate cautiously on the mechanics of the motorcycle again. We talked about it being agile. But is it loud? Would Shannon have heard it from inside the homestead?
That's a very good question. These little agricultural bikes are generally 2-stroke or small 4-stroke engines. They have a distinct high-pitched whine. They are not quiet vehicles.
So if Shannon was inside...
If she was inside with the baby, maybe the baby was crying, maybe the TV was on, or the radio, or maybe...
Maybe she did hear it.
And that is where the inconsistencies might come in. If someone says, I didn't hear anything, but a neighbor or a worker a kilometer away heard an engine revving, that's a discrepancy.
Or if the SegDec says, I was down the south paddock fixing a fence, but the bike was heard going north towards the creek.
Another discrepancy. The timeline is a puzzle, and the pieces are sound, sight, and data.
It's just fascinating how modern investigations are this blend of old-school tracking, literally looking for footprints in the dust and high-tech data mining from a cell phone.
It's the pincer movement.
Yeah.
You squeeze them from the physical world side, and you squeeze them from the digital world side.
And right now, the suspect is in the middle of that squeeze.
And the silence is the only thing holding it at bay.
I want to touch on the commuter family aspect again. This is a very modern Australian setup, isn't it? Dad working away in the mines or the city, mom on the farm with the grandparents.
It adds a layer of stress, definitely. You're effectively a single parent a lot of the time.
And you have that in-law dynamic. The reports mention Joshua, the dad, clashing with Josie, the grandparent, that there was tension there.
Yes, that has been reported.
Tension about what?
We don't know the specifics, of course, but living in that kind of isolation amplifies everything. If you don't get along and you are the only 2 people for 40 kilometers, that friction generates a lot of heat. There's no escape.
And then you add a tragedy of this magnitude into that friction.
And it explodes. The fact that Joshua wasn't told until the next morning, I just can't get past that. Imagine that phone call. Where were you? Why didn't you call me last night?
We were looking for 12 hours without me.
Exactly. That conversation alone, regardless of what happened, would destroy a family relationship.
Do you think the police played the long game here? Did they suspect this from the start back in October?
I suspect they had their doubts very, very early. The major crime declaration usually comes when the first round of forensic results come back. They probably sent those items they seized from the raid off in January, waited for the lab, got the preliminary results, and then made the announcement.
So the raid in January wasn't a fishing expedition. They knew what they were looking for.
You don't get a warrant to seize vehicles without probable cause. A judge has to sign off on that. You'd have to go to a judge and say, We believe evidence of a crime is in that car, on that bike.
So they already had something pretty concrete back in January.
They had enough to convince a judge. And now they're trying to build enough to convince a jury or get a confession.
It just makes you look at the Outback differently. It's so big, so empty. But the secrets in this case are so small and contained.
That's the paradox. You can hide a body in the Outback, probably forever.
Yeah.
But you can't hide the truth of who was there and who wasn't. The circle of people is just too tight.
Before we wrap up, I want to circle back to the listener, because so many of us have been following this. We all saw the missing posters shared on Facebook. We felt that hope. What should people take away from this sudden dark shift?
I think the takeaway is that we need to trust the process, even when it's agonizingly slow. The police were quiet for months. People were angry. Why are they telling us anything? But they were working. They were building the map, draining the dams, checking the mines. They had to patiently rule out the impossible to finally get to the uncomfortable truth.
And for anyone listening who might actually know something,
Even the smallest detail. Did you see a motorcycle in the distance that day? Did you hear something unusual? The police are still asking for information. Crime Stoppers is 1-800-300-33300. It can be anonymous.
it's a heavy one today, folks. We went from a tragic rescue mission to a murder investigation in the blink of an eye.
But at least now we hope we are moving toward the truth. And for Gus, that's the only thing left we can give him.
We're going to leave it there. A suspect identified, a family divided, and a little boy still missing somewhere in the red dust.
But the dust is starting to settle, and the picture is getting clearer. And it's a grim one.
Here's a final thought for you to chew on. The police used artificial intelligence to distinguish a sheep from a human from the air. They drained millions of liters of water from the earth. They searched 700 square kilometers of rugged land. But the hardest, most unforgiving terrain to search isn't the outback.
No. It's the silence of a suspect who knows exactly what happened in those 30 minutes before the sun went down.
Thanks for joining us on the deep dive. We'll be watching this one closely.
Take care.
See you next time.